went over and started teaching skiing in Megève, and I spent the rest of the winter teaching skiing in Megève. And it was really interesting because still my French was very poor. I knew the French terms for skiing, but it was the working with the people in I could not understand some of their French, or they couldn't understand my English, and but I was very successful in working with them. One fellow I went out there and they assigned me to teach him. First thing, well, I very easy by knowing the terms and everything. He did not speak English at all. And he was there in the morning, so they talked to me. Oh, I'll take him out, sure. And then when we came back at noon, and here Roger was still standing there, and I said, well, there's two or other instructors I know are not busy this afternoon. They can teach you in French. They're Frenchmen. And he said, nope, I want Otto. And I had him for a whole week, and we got along great. And you learn how to there's certain words you can use in certain ways, but you learn how to communicate besides language. And that was really a wonderful experience. And at the end of a week, he was skiing all over, and he had never skied before in his life. So it was just an unbelievable experience to be able to do that. If I can help somebody out, this is both in ski patrol and teaching skiing, it's such a great pleasure to be able to get them to enjoy a sport that I enjoyed, and get them so they can enjoy the mountains and the scenery, and you just don't teach them all just how to ski. You teach them the enjoyment of the mountain life. And some people had, especially like up here at Mission Ridge, we had quite a few years. We had this school up there. We would have the kids from the 5th grade coming up, and some of those kids, especially some of the Hispanics that had never had the opportunity to be on snow except for right around town, and we would take them up, and some of them said, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I'm going to scare it. I'm going to break everything." And we'd show them how easy and how safe it was, and then at the end of the day, these kids would just say, "Oh, we had the greatest time in our life." Well, what an experience! If you can have somebody and give them the great time of their life, that's one of the greatest gifts I think I have.
Wisdom, when I was thinking about it over my lifetime, I always thought it belonged to somebody else. I always thought the wisdom belonged to gurus from India or something, and wisdom came from a higher knowledge or a higher training than I had. But then as I realized, as I've gotten a little more senior in life, that I do have the wisdom of my experiences doing the wrong thing as well as doing some of the right things that I can pass on to grandkids and adolescents, that knowing very well that I made those mistakes and that's the direction they're heading. In adolescence, I had one experience as a teenager, actually more than one, but one I got caught at, was it's a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Gary, and we were friends all the way from probably kindergarten through high school. We had a tendency to get into trouble and do pranks Friday night or Saturday when we had time on, and we I'm talking 15, 16, 14, and this one situation, one Friday night, we rode up to the park, middle of summer, Spokane, and we were hiding in trees, scaring people as they came to the park. And that didn't work out well for a young man who came through on his bike, and we jumped out of the bushes, scared him. Instead of riding down the path to get out of the park, he rode up over the hill, and he rode through a garden of plants and crashed and actually hit the concrete with his face on the other side and was really damaged. And when we went over there to find, we heard him scream and cry. Everybody in the park came out, but when we went over to hear him and check him out, he had messed up his mouth and his teeth really bad. And we walked him home and told, his mom what happened. He got scared in the park and he crashed. And I caused that. At that point, I think you start to grow up and you realize that pulling pranks and being a jokester is one thing, but you can have consequences there that you're not expecting. It's just like, it was out for fun and people get scared and they say, and that sort of thing. But then when you have an accident happen because of silliness or, not thinking the whole process through, and you realize what damage it can cause, you change your behavior to some degree. Yeah, in fact, a lot, I would think. I would think after that incident, I think Gary and I stuck to probably raiding apple trees. The only one we hurt would be ourselves if we fell out of the tree, right? Yeah, so that's and then going through the military and having children and having advancement, you become you become more wise to the system that's happening, and but you're always learning. I'm 78 years old and I learn something new every day, but I think there's a period when you're going through adolescence that you think you know it all, but I haven't reached that yet. I thought when I was 15, 16, 17, maybe even 19, I knew it all, but then somebody disproved that, I'm sure, along the way.
Okay, this is to you. You young kids, our guys were all raised, we didn't, things got easier financially as they grew along, but we never had scads of money. We did have the opportunity here and there to invest in things that turned out to be okay investments. But what I want to would encourage young people to do is to have the discipline to either save or invest in something that might grow. If I have one big worry about all of our 6 successful grandsons, it is the cost of living has gotten so much that there isn't money going into a retirement fund. So I urge you guys, set up a retirement fund early on in life. If it's only $1 or $2 a week, it makes a huge difference in 10 years. And you think, 10 years I'll be making a bundle. Not necessarily. So put a little away with each paycheck. One of our sons and daughters-in-law, who both came from similar backgrounds of frugalness, they managed to put 10% away. If they were starving to death, 10% still went away. My gosh, they're not wealthy, but they're exceedingly well off now. Retired, but still working. So that's one bit of wisdom. Save or invest. And I don't mean invest in fly-by-night stuff, but rock solid stuff. There were a lot of times I was alone, and I never knew my grandfather, my mother's father, because he died, I think, in 23, and I wasn't born till 26. And I really have credited the fact I was even born to the fact that my grandmother cried that she didn't have any babies to hold. Well, within the next 3 years, there were 4 grandkids. So I had immediate cousins my own age because she needed babies to hold. But apparently she was a worrier, and so it came down in the family that she would worry, and the grandfather would say, "Now, Mary Jane, dear, when we get to that river, there will be a bridge." And you know, that was a comfort to me, that there will be a bridge. And there were. When our son died, which was the worst loss, or Chris died suddenly, I felt I had to take care of myself and stay alive so I could take care of Robert, because I thought I was going to lose him at the same time. That was in 2000. And, you know, we eventually both made a decent recovery to that, and we stayed in very close contact with our widowed daughter-in-law and with their daughter, who was only 9 at that time. They were in Seattle, and we were over there at least every 2 weeks for probably the first 6 months after Chris died. So, I mean, I was saying to dear Lord, I've just got to stay alive here. Help me stay alive. And so I did. That's really the worst loss. When my mother died, it was time. And bless his heart, when Robert died in May this past year, it was time for him to go, bless his heart. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, he's left me reasonably well fixed financially. I have a beautiful home, and I have friends, so I have a new motto. Since he's died, my motto is to say yes to every opportunity, and that's why I'm here.
I was born in the Depression era, and I had my mother, father, and 3 sisters. There were 4 of us. And we moved to Charleston, South Carolina before the war in 1941. Had lived in the country before, so we had very little. No running water or anything like that. So when we moved to Charleston, we moved into a project. And it had an inside bathroom and hot and cold running water. It was a marvelous time of my life. I found that even if you have very little, you can always get more. You can have a better life always. And so that's one of the first memories of a good time. And then from there, in my teens, my father was ill most of my life with alcohol addiction. And so my mother was a very strong lady, and there were the 4 of us girls. And my mother was a wonderful role model, which at that time, that wasn't even a saying to have a role model, but my mother was the glue that held this family together. And when I was 17, I graduated from high school. At 18, I married. And I thought, my life is just going great. Everything, I'm happy. I have everything. It is time to move on. And I knew that hard work would mean a lot. If you work hard, there's nothing you can't get. There's nothing that is too far to reach for. And I reached. You don't have to accept what's always given to you. Always look forward. Always look ahead. And there's always something good out there for you. But it takes hard work and determination to get it. So, and that's what I did. There were periods in everybody's life, I'm sure, that aren't the best in the world, but you got to make the best of it. And I was very happy at 18 when I was married, because I thought, oh, I'm in for it now. I can really do good. And I was very happy. Then I had, when I was 20, I had my first child, which ended up being twins. I had 5 children in a little more than 6 years. That started in 1950. In 1962, my husband left me with my 5 children. And I thought, what am I going to do? How am I going to raise these wonderful children? was terrified. And I had an individual tell me, a very good friend, you can feel sorry for yourself if you want to, but nobody else will. So I knew I had to do something. I put my children first, and I got on with my life. I worked hard. I worked at 3 jobs. The twins were 12 years old, and they did most of the babysitting after school so that I could work. I had a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs, and I made it. We were happy. I was scared because I really didn't know what I was going to do. But it just takes determination. I had no family that I could depend on because my father was ill. My sisters were all young with young families, so I had nobody that I that could help me. I did it by myself, and so I think that probably was the hardest time of my life. And I knew I had to find a way for me to be happy in order for my children to be happy. And so I worked at it. God was good to me. And with His grace, that brought me forward. My children were raised in church. I mean, we went to church every Sunday. I was an Episcopalian and had gone to church as a child. And so I'm not over religious, but I know that God is always there. And with His help, I made it.